The greatest fighter in UFC history just asked to be set free. Jon Jones, on 28 wins, 1 controversial DQ loss, 2 division champion, the man Dana White himself has called the greatest of all time.
The greatest fighter to ever live. Ever. Jon Jones
Posted a statement on Monday that sent shockwaves through combat sports. He is asking the UFC to release him from his contract, not because he's done fighting, not because his body gave out, but because the UFC allegedly lowballed the GOAT, publicly humiliated him, and then told the world his career was over.
I can tell you that Jon Jones at 4:24 p.m. posted on X that he would like to be released from the UFC.
Tonight we are breaking down every single detail of this war. Who said what? Who's lying? What the money actually looked like? And what happens next? Because there are some very powerful people already circling, waiting to sign Jon Jones the moment he walks out that door. To understand this explosion, you have to go back to last summer, when President Trump and Dana White announced the UFC would hold a historic fight card on the White House South Lawn on June 14th, 2026. The UFC Freedom 250, Jones had literally just announced his retirement.
Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
But the moment he heard about the White House card, he unretired immediately. He rejoined the anti-doping testing pool. He publicly lobbied for a spot. He wanted in on this historic event more than anything. The fight being discussed, Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira for the interim heavyweight title, on the White House lawn in front of the president, on Paramount. It would have been the biggest heavyweight fight in UFC history.
Ever, which I told you guys 100,000 times, was Jon Jones even remotely in my mind to fight at the White House.
For months, Jones kept hinting that negotiations were happening, that he was close, that he was preparing. He received stem cell treatment on his arthritic hip. He scheduled training camp to start March 9th. He was genuinely preparing to fight.
Bro, I want to see him go against Cormier and RAF. That's what I want to see.
Are you gonna do it?
Bro,
I have severe arthritis, and most people don't know that. My left hip is covered in arthritis.
Damn.
I actually already qualified for a hip replacement.
Oh.
Then came UFC 326 this past Saturday. Dana White announced the full White House card during the broadcast. 6 fights. Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje in the main event. Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight title in the co-main. Everybody else. Jon Jones? Nowhere. Not on the card. Not even mentioned. Then at the post-fight press conference, a reporter asked White about Jones, and Dana went scorched earth.
Ever, which I told you guys 100,000 times, was Jon Jones even remotely in my mind to fight at the White House. Some guy with meta glasses on filmed him talking about his hips, that his hips are so bad. And I don't know if you guys saw that flag football game where he can barely run. Jon Jones he retired because of his hips. He's got arthritis in his hips. Apparently he's been, doctors say he should have hip replacement.
Dana didn't stop there. A reporter asked whether it was fair to consider Jones retired for good.
Is it fair to say then Jon Jones is retired and this is the end of his time?
Yes. Very fair.
2 words. After everything Jones had done for the UFC, after 15 years of title defenses, record-breaking win streaks, and making the promotion hundreds of millions of dollars. Yes, very fair. Jones was watching, and within hours, he went off. Saturday night and Sunday, Jones posted and deleted a wave of raw, emotional posts on X. Screenshots went viral immediately. This is what the GOAT wrote when he thought he was being erased. Then on Sunday night, Jones went live on Instagram. He was lying in bed. He looked exhausted, and he said just 4 words.
I'm so pissed off.
By Monday, Jones composed himself, deleted the raw posts, and dropped a long, structured statement on X that laid out his full case point by point. This was no longer just emotional venting. This was a man making a legal and public case against his employer.
Dana, you were heated about why I'm not on the White House card, but let's clear something up. My team and I were actually negotiating with the UFC for that fight. Real negotiations. I even came down from my original number, and what it was I offered in return, I was lowballed. Yes, I have arthritis in my hip and it's painful, but that doesn't mean I can't fight. So let me get this straight. If I had accepted the lowball offer, suddenly my hip would be fine and I'd be on the White House card. That doesn't make sense. I even received stem cell treatment last week to get ready for the White House card, and training camp was scheduled to start today. After everything I've given to the UFC, the years, the title defenses, the fights, hearing that I'm done is disappointing. Especially when, as of recently as Friday, UFC was calling me trying to get me on that White House card for a much lower number. If the UFC truly feels like I'm done, then I respectfully ask to be released from my contract today. No more spins, no more games.
Let that land. As recently as Friday, 2 days before the press conference where Dana said Jones was never considered, the UFC was still calling Jones to try to get him on the card at a lower offer than they'd already lowballed him with. Now here's where it gets damaging for Dana White, because the most respected journalist in MMA did something unusual. He publicly contradicted the UFC CEO. Ariel Helwani on his show and on X backed Jones's version of events completely.
In the end, they couldn't come to terms on a deal. Without getting too into the numbers, Jon Jones wanted something similar to what he was offered last year to fight Tom Aspinall. They were more comfortable with something similar to what they gave Conor Benn very recently. I know not their money, but I'm talking the numbers here. And that was the impasse.
Now let's translate that into numbers, because this is the heart of everything. Last year, the UFC offered Jones $30 million to fight Tom Aspinall for the undisputed heavyweight championship. Jones accepted the number and then pulled out and announced his retirement. So the UFC knows what Jones is worth. They've already valued him at $30 million.
That's me. That's me saying that.
Yeah.
After the history that I've had with Jon Jones. If anybody should be getting money in this sport, it's Jon Jones.
Are you surprised they're not giving it to him?
Well, they offered him $30 million to fight me, so why have they not offered it again? I don't understand.
For the White House card, Jones came back asking for something in that same range. And what did the UFC offer? Something closer to what they recently paid Conor Benn, a fighter who, with respect, is nowhere near Jon Jones's level of global star power.
If Conor Benn is a $15 million fighter, more power to him. I think it's great that he got that. Jon Jones is actually more than a $30 million fighter, and Conor McGregor's probably a $75 million fighter, if you get what I'm saying.
That was the impasse. Not the hip, not the reliability concerns, not the arthritis. The UFC tried to pay the GOAT bargain bin money for the most high-profile event in the promotion's history. After Jones's statement went viral, Dana was asked about it again at Sunday's Zuffa boxing event. And here's where Dana accidentally undermined his own position.
I never said there were no negotiations. I never said that. I said, were they talking to Jon Jones? They talked to everybody. Everybody was talked to. Not one word of what I said was not true about the whole Jon Jones thing. And how many times have I sat up here and said, he's not fighting at the White House?
Did you catch that? At UFC 326, Dana said Jones was never, ever in his mind for the card. Now at Zuffa Boxing, he's saying, I never said there were no negotiations. That's a contradiction, and the MMA world noticed. Now here's the twist nobody saw coming. The man who suffered more than anyone from Jon Jones's games over the past 2 years, UFC heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall, came out publicly and defended Jones. This is a man who waited nearly 2 years for Jones to fight him, got strung along, watched Jones retire rather than face him, and still took his side. That tells you something.
What about Jon Jones? I thought Jon Jones was on it.
Where's he gone?
Where's he gone, John? I thought they were going to do Topuria versus Makhachev, is what I thought. And then they were going to do Pereira versus Jones.
This is going to probably be crazy to a lot of people listening, but why is the UFC not giving Jon the respect he deserves financially? That's crazy to me. If anyone should be getting paid a lot in this sport, it should be Jon Jones for the stuff that he's done. And that's me. That's me saying that.
Yeah.
After the history that I've had with Jon Jones. Well, they offered him $30 million to fight me, so why have they not offered it again? I don't understand. Those guys who we're talking about, Conor McGregor and Jon Jones and guys like that, like they bring in those are the guys who brought in the revenue for over 10 years.
Yeah.
They need to be getting paid what they deserve.
Then Francis Ngannou entered the chat. The man who left the UFC in 2022 over his own pay dispute, who has lived this exact situation, posted his reaction on X and made the message unmistakable.
3 or 4 years ago,
I was saying this out loud, and I will still say this not only to John Jones, but everyone that out there and who's probably in the same situation, because I think most of them are in the same situation.
That's not just a supportive post, that's a fight offer. Ngannou versus Jones has been the most wanted heavyweight fight in MMA for years. The UFC could never make it happen while both were under contract. If Jones walks, that fight is available immediately. On Netflix, on MVP, on any platform willing to write the check. And MVP co-founder Nakisa Badarian, Jake Paul's business partner and a former UFC CFO who knows exactly how these contracts work, posted this.
John Jones said he wants to be released, and I tweeted, UFC should release him, like he's not in a good place. I wasn't trying to interfere, I was just saying, yeah, I agree with Dana, the guy's hip is bad. Like, let that old man out of his, out of his contract to go make a few shillings somewhere else.
Read that again. Only fair for a guy who has given his whole career to one organization. That tweet viewed 178,000 times in 24 hours. MVP is openly recruiting John Jones. And if Jones walks, they have a supercard ready to go. With Ngannou already signed and Netflix money behind it. Here's the hard truth, and this is my take. The UFC is not going to release John Jones. Not willingly. Not now. Think about it from their perspective. They have a heavyweight division in crisis. Tom Aspinall is recovering from double eye surgery and has no timeline for return. Jones is still under contract. The moment they release him, he walks across the street and signs with MVP Ngannou versus Jones happens on Netflix. That event does enormous numbers. And suddenly the UFC's competitor just ran their biggest event of the year with their biggest star. The UFC has done this before. They held Conor McGregor under contract for years while he barely competed. They have every legal tool at their disposal to keep Jones locked in, even if he never fights again. Welcome to the promotion's version of a franchise tag. But here's what makes this different from every other Jones drama. This time there's documented evidence from the most credible journalist in the sport that the UFC lied about the negotiations. Dana White publicly said Jones was never considered. Ariel Helwani publicly said they were 100% in talks. That contradiction doesn't go away, and Jones has every right to be furious. So where does this end? 3 possibilities. 1. The UFC quietly offers Jones better money and brings him back for a massive fight later this year. 2. Jones sits out the rest of his contract in limbo while Aspinall heals and the division stagnates. Or 3, and this is the nuclear option, Jones's legal team finds a way to fight the contract and he becomes a free agent. Option 3 would be the biggest story in combat sports history. Ngannou versus Jones. Netflix, MVP, hundreds of millions of dollars outside the UFC. And right now, nobody knows which way this goes. What we do know is that the greatest fighter in UFC history is sitting at home, pissed off and asking the promotion he built his legacy inside of to let him go. Drop your take in the comments. Is the UFC wrong for how they handled this? Should they release Jones? And who do you want to see him fight next if he does walk? Hit subscribe and turn on notifications for MMA Now. We cover every story in this sport that matters. We'll see you in the next one.